Could your rent money be coming even sooner than predicted as House leaders consider returning back to D.C. August 24th? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. This is afternoon's LALATE that starts every day with a check at 3:30 and then goes to hazard pay, FPUC, and rent assistance, our 2-hour programming block every day. In a day in which the scandal of DEJOY is literally just making everyone's head spin. But ironically, it could be the anchor to get your rent assistance earlier than ever anticipated. What's going on, and how do we get here? Your rent assistance has been dragged through the mud over the last 48 hours as we started the weekend with Steve Mnuchin claiming he threw money on the table in his stimulus package, or revised stimulus package, or ultra stimulus package offer, but Nancy Pelosi said it wasn't enough money, or said it didn't exist. The parties had agreed upon the principles. They had agreed upon rent eviction moratorium, mortgage forbearance moratorium, and agreed upon rent aid to people in need during this pandemic. So why couldn't they get it done? She claimed that there was not agreement upon the money. He claimed there was. And then came this. The entire arguments over the second stimulus package were unraveling early in the week on Monday because of a scandal regarding a purported $1 trillion bailout of states. Why this is interesting for purposes of this video is that $1 trillion bailout of states concerned money like rent assistance. States and cities across the country had asked the federal government during the first pandemic for money to provide to their citizens for rent. And when they got it, did they spend it? Well, as I reported over several weeks ago, Andrew Cuomo in New York got the money, but it only started sending it out a few weeks ago. Actually, didn't even start sending it out. Started receiving applications for you to get the money to send it out. Why did it take weeks? Steve Mnuchin on Monday morning on CNBC claimed that states had all this money for bailouts, or whatever you call it, under the first stimulus package, which included money for rent, but wasn't using it. Rather was using it to sort of balance their budget and fire their employees. So that was then. That was a scandal on Monday. Then we had the Fox crapola on Thursday, the Fox scandal, where they said everyone's left town. There's no reporting. There's nothing going to happen in the second stimulus package for, a month to September. Don't talk about stimulus packages until September. Nothing is going to happen because everyone has left town, is not leaving, not coming back. Everything was wrong and untrue about the stories we knew. No one had left town. Everyone was still talking. Cabinet members were still there. Nancy and Steve were still chatting. And there was an order for everyone to return back to town. There was an agreement between Steve and Nancy. But when we heard the report from Fox, we wondered if there was a reason why that report was even run. If there was a reason why the false report was run. Well, there was this. President Trump reacted, Larry Kudlow reacted, Steve Mnuchin reacted to a voters' rights initiative under Nancy Pelosi's second stimulus package. Now, when I reported this video, the last 3 days, I fully admit I didn't know what the hell they're talking about. I kept on doing this. And I'm like, it's not in Nancy's bill. What are they talking about? Well, there was a part in her bill, but it wasn't what they described it as. So that's why I was confused what the hell they're talking about. She did have a $25 billion allocation for the post office, but it's an emergency injection of money for the post office. Okay, I got it. They don't want to pay it. She wants to pay it. Pretty easy thing. Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. It's tied up in one of the biggest scandals of 2020, now brewing. That the Democrats claim that the lack of funding being denied to the post office is teed up to an attempt by Inspector DEJOY, the Postmaster General of the Post Office, who is a Trump donor, to not enable the free and equitable delivery of mail and mail-in ballots and the results back to mail-in officials during the 2020 elections this fall. That's their allegation. Oh my goodness. And suddenly, the issue about rent eviction is not being held up because of a bailout of states. It's being held up because of an Inspector DEJOY scandal. Now, the weekend started with me not even covering it because it's like, oh, it has nothing. It has nothing to do with checks. Why talk about Inspector DEJOY? Well, quickly it did, because the president said, "I'm not giving you the money," and then minutes this morning, Mark Meadows, chief of staff, appeared on Morning News and said, "Oh, you know what? I'll give you checks. I'll give you stimulus checks right now. I'll give you FPUC. I'll give you all these things you need right now, and I'll throw some money on top of the post office. But we don't need to look into what's going on with the post office anymore. There's nothing going wrong with the post office." He then called out reports about what was going on with the post office, which is part of Nancy Pelosi's bill, to ensure that nothing wrong is going on at the post office. And so when he was asked about 700 high-volume mail processing machines being removed, he says not happening. When he was asked about removal of letter collection boxes, he says not happening. And if it is happening, I will check and make sure they're put back. He was asked why is mail arriving late and not being sorted. He blamed the Democrats. He said, why are post offices being closed early or midday or not even opened? He said, I have no answer and I don't think it's true. And he slammed the reporting. But he said, come back to town. I'll give you a second stimulus check. I'll give you a big pot of money for the post office. Just don't investigate the situation. Chuck Schumer wasn't having it. So Chuck Schumer said, I want to see you, Inspector DEJOY. I haven't seen you in a while. I have now issued you an order to appear on August 24th before a House subcommittee to answer questions about what the hell you're doing at the post office. And other Democrats now say, well, Nancy, let's have a chat. And they did. Overnight, Steny Hoyer, Whip Claiborne, Carolyn Maloney were among those who spoke to Nancy Pelosi and said, hey, I think it's time to bring the whole group back to town. Cue the Welcome Back Kotter theme song, the famous 1970s sitcom. Welcome them all back to town, because I think it's time to have a hearing, both in the Senate and the House, about what the hell is going on in the second stimulus package. And some Democrats float the idea of doing all the things and getting them all done without the involvement of Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin, ensuring the integrity of the 2020 election, said Pelosi in a statement. Some Democrats included all these things being floated as separate bills, being floated together, but getting it done right now. The keywords are right now. What is that kid talking about? What is the Purple Wonder talking about? What I'm referring to is that suddenly, and it sounds so crazy to even say it this way, but suddenly the urgency of you being thrown on the street, suddenly the urgency of you losing your home, suddenly the urgency of you not being able to pay rent, suddenly the urgency of you losing your apartment building, your house, your home, or your office building. Suddenly there was never an urgency about it, but now there is, because it's tied into funding and equities to ensure DEJOY does not corrupt the 2020 elections. So claim the Democrats. And with that, they now see that as an absolute urgent situation they have to deal with now, because we're less than about 80 days away from the election. And that while we always thought eviction moratoriums was a really big pressing issue, they think this one is really a big pressing issue. Ironically, Republicans agree. And Republicans think that it is a big issue now that needs to be addressed right at the moment. It's just, how do you handle it? Boy. As I said in the check video earlier today, I didn't know if I was going to be able to explain this postmaster scandal clearly, because it's very confusing. It's just hideously confusing. And as you sit here now and you're waiting to see where's your rent assistance and rent grants and rent money, and you're hearing that you may get it because there's a scandal involving a postmaster who's making, $200,000 a year and is a Trump donor that donates billions of dollars a year to Trump. It's just like, what? What the hell is going on, LALATE? As someone once says, I don't see this on the news. Well, you know how long this took me to explain it to you? It took me 11 minutes to explain the scandal. Broadcast news doesn't have 11 minutes to explain a scandal. Print news does. And ultimately, this is literally the amalgamation of like 7 different print news reports today about what's happening, and broadcast news as well, what's happening and why this is suddenly an urgent issue right now. It's only 4 o'clock. It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if Fox News is watching saying there's nothing happening, the second stimulus package into September, well, Fox News, well, congratulations, there's something really happening, and it's just not stopping. Coming up next tonight is Evening's LALATE. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Go to the Fuzz channel, hit that subscribe button and that alert button. If there's one thing I'm doing besides, pulling my hair out, trying to figure out how does this USPS scandal work, it's very complicated. I am looking and answering questions about grants. And these grants generally have to do with rent. I mean, some of them are not tied to rent, but a lot do. And so a lot of viewers have sent me some stuff. If you sent me stuff and I haven't responded, let's do the following. If you know something about a grant that you want me to share, as opposed to you're asking me for information about a grant. If you know something about a grant you want to share, send me a DM on Twitter. Not on Instagram, but Twitter, at LALATE. That way I can see it. I am literally behind by 2,000 or it's like 500 or 2,000 private messages on Instagram. It's just overwhelming because I'm getting everything and everywhere, and I'm just trying to catch up. So send it to me on Twitter, and I will share it. Overnight, I shared a few more. I shared something with food. Anything you can help. That's the spirit of this channel, helping one another. In times like this, I'm not here to decide whether there's a scandal or not. I'm here to ensure that you have money for your rent. And I've seen your messages. And one of the things on a personal level, I forgot to say, I wanted to end with this. On a personal level, I see people who are sending me DMs on Instagram that I can't get to because there's so many of them. And I see the messages. And I want you to understand that if you send me a message about your dire situation and I don't have time to respond or haven't gotten to it yet, or I don't give you a long answer, or I don't have an answer for you, like people saying, is there a grant someone asked me, is there a grant in Las Vegas? I'm about to be homeless. Family of 5, we're about to be homeless. We have no money. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to sit here because I'm one person. And I wish there was a clearinghouse for all this information. And this is where government has failed. There should be organizations that create a clearinghouse of information for grants, rental assistance on a national level, so people could go to one website and look it up. And I shouldn't have to be asking people to share this information so I can relay it. This is a failure of the government, both state and local or federal. There should be a way for the information to be shared. The lack of information during this pandemic has been horrible. And I'm trying my best, but it's emotionally very difficult sometimes on me. I try not to think about it, in which I see messages where people ask me for something, for information, and I just don't have the answer. I don't have the answer if there's a grant in Las Vegas and the family of 5 is about to go on the street. And so whatever information you know, whatever small or large, anything, DM me on Twitter. Make sure it's a website with a link so I can just send out the link. Make sure it's just a simple website and link. If you don't know what it is, please find it before you send it to me, because I'm literally just copying and pasting it, sending it right away. And if you subscribe and hit the alert button on the Furnish channel, you'll see that as soon as I notify you, go right to it and apply right away. Don't wait. Apply right away. These things are first come, first serve. Coming up next is Evening's LALATE. It's only, in the middle of the day. Maybe there could be 3 more scandals. Who knows? Stay informed, stay motivated, stay inspired, and stay in LA for more.